Biases and nostalgia in false imaging. My research question is, how does confirmation bias and nostalgia affect a person's ability to detect inconsistencies in staged or altered images? The topics I will be covering today are confirmation bias, nostalgia, false nostalgia, imaging, and my solution. First is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is the tendency to look for information that supports rather than rejects one's preconceptions, typically by interpreting evidence to confirm existing beliefs. This was stated by Julia Stimkis in her article on Simply Psychology. There are two types of biases in confirmation bias. The first is interpretation. This is most common when interpreted evidence relates to an existing belief by assessing confirming information differently than information that would challenge the viewer's current opinion. The second is memory, which is in order to confirm a current belief, a person could recall selective information, leaving out key details that could alter an opinion. An example of memory bias is when you're on social media and you see an ad pop up on the side or like throughout an Instagram reel or something. Those ads are tailored, they're algorithms that are tailored to you and what you are commonly looking at or what your phone hears you say. So that is like selective information that is like tailored towards you. Next is heuristics. Heuristics are mental shortcuts that help make decisions and solve problems. For an example of heuristics is seeing a plane crash in the news and thinking that it's a common thing that happens all the time, even though you just saw one instance or two instances on the news. But in reality, there's tons of planes going out every day, and the reality of yours crashing is not high. The next is nostalgia. Nostalgia is a sentimental yearning for the past that evokes feelings of pleasure with occasional notes of pleasure. The feeling of nostalgia comes from the hippocampus and the ventral stratum that work together to create this feeling of nostalgia. It focuses on self along with family and friends and targets past experiences. False nostalgia. False nostalgia is a feeling of being nostalgic for something that you never personally experienced. So an example is being nostalgic for the 80s even though you never lived through the 80s. This is a Gothic castle that was built and is able for people to go and view. The point of the castle being built was to prove people's assumptions on what happened to the castle. So this castle was actually built how it looks. It is supposed to represent like something happening and cause people to make assumptions on what previously happened to the castle, but it was built just like this to prove assumptions and nostalgic feelings. Imaging. Target strategies are when someone has an idea in their head and they focus on things that support their belief. So an example would be Where's Waldo? Everybody has heard of this game and played it as a kid. We all know that Waldo is wearing red and white, so when you're looking through the pages, it's common for someone's brain to target like splotches of red or white to look for Waldo there, where in reality he could be anywhere on the page, not just in those areas. My solution was mitigating biases. The most effective way to mitigate a bias is to challenge your brain to think of the bigger picture and to veer away from solely thinking of just your opinions. You can do this by seeking diverse perspectives, encouraging critical thinking and skepticism, and actively looking for different perspectives that challenges your existing beliefs. So in conclusion, biases cause influenced assumptions, and to avoid biases, you can use critical thinking, skepticism, and look for diverse perspectives.
How did your research question evolve as you moved through the research process?
Yeah, at the beginning of the project, I was looking at all of the different types of biases, And when I was looking at the stimuluses, I was looking at the one about false nostalgia in the castle, and I realized that it related mostly to confirmation bias, so I focused more on that, and that's how I ended up with my final question.
Okay. And what additional questions emerged from your research, and why are they important?
Some additional questions that I came up with were how the other types of biases affect nostalgia and can relate to nostalgia. So like confirmation bias is targeting what you already know and what your current beliefs are, but there were other types of nostalgia or types of biases that like cause nostalgic feelings in different ways.